Good morning, Eddie. Probably the only downside from Sunday at Sheffield United was the injury to Harvey Barnes. We saw him leave the field quite early. We've had a couple of days since the match. Can you tell us more about the nature of the injury and how bad it is?
Yeah, I think it's an injury to his part of the foot just below the toe. I think it's quite a substantial injury. We've had it scanned. We're waiting now for a specialist opinion on what to do next, whether there's surgery involved or not.
Was it from a tackle, or did he just catch it himself, no one around? Do you know?
Yeah, I think I don't think it was a tackle. I think it was just pushing off to run. Very unusual injury. I won't go too technical because I'm not medically qualified to do so, but yeah, very unusual.
Have you got any other new injuries ahead of the cup time this week?
We've got a couple in there. A few players that are naturally, I think, from the 3 games, and it's such a big physical effort. I know I say it a lot, but the 3-game week does test you. Something we're going to have to get used to, but we've got a few issues in there.
I know you spoke after the match on Sunday about Anthony Gordon, but he's been fantastic for you this season, hasn't he? And I think probably last season maybe some fans and some critics were expecting a bit more from him after he arrived, but we're really starting to see the quality he has and why you and the club made such a big move to get him in January, aren't we?
Yeah, I think he's had an outstanding start to the season. What's pleased me most, I think, is his fitness levels, his athleticism is really coming to the fore, but he's adding goals and product, so he had an assist and a goal on Sunday, which is great to see, and all attacking players will be judged ultimately by that. I always say when we sign players that there needs to be patience. Players aren't going to, as much as you want them to come in and be outstanding from minute one, that's very rare. Sometimes there's a bedding in period, sometimes some players take longer than others. We had no doubt on Anthony's quality, but I think the pre-season did him really good, but as did the 6 months that he had with us before the break for the summer, because he had a taste of what to expect, and he came back then with a much greater understanding.
And I suppose the exciting thing with him and with any young player, because he's still a young player, is that they can and will hopefully get better.
That's the plan. I think for Anthony, he's got such a high ceiling. I think that there's probably shouldn't use the word ceiling, but he's got such a high ability and so much potential that we really feel he can push on, and so much more to work on and improve. But the qualities are there for him to be an outstanding player at this level.
The League Cup then, it gave you great moments and great memories from last season, and a special weekend for the fans going to Wembley. This season you've already referenced the busy fixture schedule that you have. How important is it to your season this year, the League Cup?
Yeah, it's an important competition for us. As you say, last year was amazing for us. We started against Tranmere, which was an incredibly difficult game. Seems a long time ago now, but that's you have to do. You have to go to some tough places in the early rounds. Now we've got the ultimate test coming up in the first round this year, so a totally different tie to last year. But we will give it every importance. We will try as hard as we can to progress, because we want to try and compete in every competition. We're certainly not dismissing it as anything other than the most important game.
And Pep Guardiola suggested that he will make changes for the match. You've got a lot of players who probably need and maybe deserve a game, and you might have 1 or 2, as you've already touched on, that possibly need a rest given the other matches that you've got coming up. So will you freshen things up and use the squad this week?
Yeah, I think we will use the squad. I say think because it's not finalised in my brain what we're gonna do yet. I think I need to assess everybody physically first from the game that we just had. I think there's been a couple of players that have been carrying certain things, so we'll need to manage them. But we do have players, as you say, that are really keen to play and show what they can do. I think I have to utilise the squad, especially with what we have coming up, not just at the weekend, but then midweek next week. And as I said many times, we want the players to enter the pitch in the best physical condition to showcase their skills. So that'll be the same again for tomorrow.
Last question from me. He impressed it throughout pre-season, and Lewis Miley's been on the bench I think a couple of times for you this year. Is there a chance we could see him at some point on Wednesday, even just as a substitute?
There's a chance. As I say, I haven't got all the information that I need before picking my squad yet, but he's someone that's done really well.
Thank you. Keith?
Eddie, I noticed Pep said that he might play himself due to the amount of injuries they've got, and obviously trying to change it. Can you see Eddie Howe in the Newcastle team?
You can rest assured you will not be seeing me. I did do a little fitness test this morning and I failed it, so I'm ruled out.
In terms of, I know you touched on it a bit, Razor, in terms of the pro competitions you're in, do you have a priority list? Like, do you prioritise the Premier League or the Champions League? How do you do it? Because it's different for you this season, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but there's no priority list. There's no one tournament that's more important than the other, and I've said this to the players many times, because it's a very dangerous thing to do. The most important game is our next game, whoever that is, whatever competition that is, and we'll try and focus all our energies to try and win that match, whichever tournament it's in.
And I guess it's the draw that no team wants it, best team in the country. However, it is a chance early in the competition to eliminate one of the favourites or the favourite.
Yeah, I think you're right though. I think it's the draw that no one wants, because for me they're the best club team in the world and have been for some time. Regardless of what team they pick, they've got world-class players. They've got, for me, the best manager in the world as well. So I think the test is there for us. We don't underestimate it, but we also want to attack it and show that we have strength and depth as well, and we can compete on various fronts. I think this is an ideal place to try and show that.
And what of those 8 goals and the level of performance and the way that the players finish those chances, what has that done for the confidence since the weekend?
Yeah, well, I think initially after the game, I think the feeling was very good in the dressing room, the atmosphere. I think it's always been good around the group. The spirit's high, but I think nothing can replicate scoring goals, feeling good about the team. The team rhythm looked really, really good at the weekend. Different goal scorers as well, so that's a great thing to see that we're not reliant on one person. I thought the team functioned really well. I thought there was a confidence and a really nice rhythm about the team, and yeah, long may that continue. You score 8 in one game. You hope we haven't used all our goals up, but it was great to see.
I think Sean Longstaff said after the game there'll be a quiz question of the future to try and name the 8, and he said he was joking with Dan Bird that no one will remember him and that as the first 2 scorers. It was amazing to see it spread around like that. It's so unusual.
It is unusual, and I didn't necessarily realise that straight after the game, but I think we do have goals. I'd love to think we have goals in the team, and we're not reliant on one theme or one phase of our play, because you do need goals from lots of different areas. And it's great to see someone like Sean score, because he needs to be a goal scorer for us, and I do believe he can be. And it was probably the first goal was the most important one.
Just lastly for me, you were talking about Anthony Gordon there, and the fact that you think that he's been helped by the summer, the fact that he went out and played for the England under-21s, didn't have much of a break. Will it become a point in the season where that might be something you need to be aware of, the fact he's not had a rest and he's played right through?
Yeah, try telling that to Anthony. Yeah, he's someone that wants to play, wants to train every day. Yeah, I think we'll monitor his load, and we're like we do with all the players. We try and pick and choose, and that's why I sort of chose the Sheffield United game to try and give him a rest, to try and make sure that then he's fit and available to give his best potentially in this game and the games beyond. Obviously that didn't work out because Harvey picked up his injury, but there will be times when we'll have to try and rest everybody at some stage.
I was going to say 10 minutes is probably enough for him, isn't it?
I think with his mindset, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Eddie obviously enjoyed it. It's Sunday and you've got to enjoy those moments, but you feel a tinge of sympathy for Paul Heckingbottom and what Sheffield United have had this season?
Yeah, I said after the game, absolutely I did. But that can't be to the detriment of your own team. We had to just focus on us and try and be as positive as you could throughout the game and try and give our best for our supporters and our club. What I will say about Sheffield United doesn't define anything, it's just one game for them, and there's been several teams over the years that have suffered big defeats, but actually in some senses it can galvanise you and help you. So I certainly wish them the best.
Have you ever been on the wrong end of anything like that yourself?
I was asked this after the game, I couldn't tell you, and I didn't go away and think about it because I didn't want to go back too far. But yeah, of course I've been on the end of some difficult defeats, and that's just part and parcel of the game.
And just looking back to Wembley last year, what's the overriding emotions? Is it still pride for having been there, or tinged with disappointment? Maybe you didn't do yourselves justice on the day.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we didn't do ourselves justice on the day. I thought it was a tight game. We just come out the wrong end of probably the first goal was key in the match. It wasn't loads of chances in the game, but I think definitely pride of the journey, the experience, and of course tinged with that we didn't quite get over the line and win the trophy that we were desperate to do. So that still leaves us burning with desire to try and achieve it this year if we can.
Simon?
And you just bring back Sunday, all positive for you, of course, but it's a kind of very unusual event in football, especially in the Premier League match. Is it almost difficult to process when you get a result like that? Having said it's all positive for you?
Well, I just think you have to take the good out of it, and you hope that spreads through the squad, and that confidence that we probably needed at this stage of the season after our difficult start. Can help us in further games. I don't think we'll analyse it too much. I don't think we'll go into too much detail, but I certainly hope we take the good feeling from it.
Damien?
Eddie, just on the Harvey, are you fearing that you could lose him for some time?
Yeah, we're fearing it's going to be probably, it's difficult, I don't want to put a time on it until we get confirmation from the specialist, but I think it will be months rather than weeks.
Can I ask you about Kieran Trippier? He provided 3 assists on Sunday. Is he the model for how you want your players to conduct themselves on and off the pitch, but also the model for how you want your young fullbacks to play?
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, technically so good, Kieran. I think again he showed that against Sheffield United, not just from dead balls but from open play as well. His use of the ball is second to none, and he's creative as well, so it's sometimes very difficult from those deep positions to when you're under high pressure to find a pass, to find a way out. He manages to do it time and again, and he's goes without saying his set piece delivery is extraordinary, has been for a number of years, and we're the beneficiaries of that now. The 2 balls that he put in at the weekend were excellent, one for Dan and one for Sven, so getting goals for 2 of our defenders. But he's been so good for us off the pitch as well, with his leadership skills, with his experience, and how he's helped the squad really focus and drive forward for continued success. So he's been an incredible player for us.
Jordan?
Yeah, obviously Sunday as well, all the talk was about how many goals you'd scored in that game, but I think it was actually the first time you kept 3 consecutive clean sheets since the beginning of the year. How much work has gone into the defensive side?
Well, we work on the defensive side every day, as we do on the ball. We try not to neglect anything, but it's been a big push for us to defend properly, but I don't think that's ever gone away, so it's not something we've ever taken away off. We have our set way of working where we do the work that we feel the team needs going into each game. I think there's been a real steeliness in the last 3 displays. I think there's been an improvement in our shape, in our general shape. Of course, Nick was outstanding against Milan, which helped us keep a clean sheet that day. But sometimes you'll need different things to keep the opposition out, and who knows what it will be tomorrow. But those qualities are so important to us.
I know you mentioned just there about you don't know what it'll be tomorrow in terms of the team, but you've got obviously 3 goalkeepers. I imagine they'll be desperate to play. Is tomorrow a chance to potentially rotate that area?
Yeah, maybe we'll look at it. I think we do have some outstanding goalkeepers. I would have no problem or hesitation in playing any of them, but we'll see.
Greg?
Morning, Eddie. You said to Razor there earlier you had some other issues. Can you just clear up what was all good in the game, what sort of finished out you've got?
Well, I don't really know, Craig. I'll have to see today.
Right.
So I'll have to speak with the medical team, and yeah.
Okay. On Anthony as well, so going back to that incident at Brentford, just tell us, in terms of his journey, that was one of the very few times, I think the only time we've seen you be publicly sort of angry or miffed with something one of your players. Just don't know how important, looking back now with sort of benefit of hindsight, was that in terms of his journey as to where he is now?
I don't know. You'd have to speak to Anthony. I think that was just one of those things that can happen. That's his passion coming out, his desire to do well. And he actually did do really well that day as well. And I said that time and time again after the game. He helped us turn that game around and helped us get 3 points. My substitution was more tactically related with very few seconds left to go in the game. But I just think it's all part and parcel of him growing, developing and learning. I think he has that fire in him. That helps him so much. That's driven him to where he is in his career now. We don't want to lose that. I think you're seeing all the positive stuff from him on the pitch at the moment, and we want to see more of it. He is an exciting player.
And we asked you this on Sunday down at Bramall Lane. You know, Callum Wilson is someone who's never hid his England ambition. He would walk around the training ground talking about it. Is Anthony like that? Have you had conversations with him about England and that next step?
No, not in any depth. I'd say the conversations that happened with him regarding England was his success in the summer and how well he did leading or participating, leading his country to a tournament win. So no doubt he's very passionate about his career. See that every day, and if that is in his forefront of his mind, then great. But really all I want him to focus on is continuing his momentum, good form, focusing on the areas that he has to improve, and keep working as hard as he has.
Luke and then Martin.
There's been a lot of questions about injuries and goalkeepers. Can you just tell us what the team is going to be tomorrow?
No.
Might we see your two young fullbacks tomorrow? We've obviously had to be patient. I know everything you've said there about taking time. That's probably a case study in point, isn't it? That those two players have needed time. But might we see them tomorrow as a good chance to have
Possibly. I'm not going to. Sorry, let me just so I can see you. Actually, I'll put it back. But I think patience is such an undervalued quality. I think both young players, you know, Tino and Lewis, and rich potential. But we need to be careful with both of them and need to manage them correctly so they're able to give their best whenever they play. Possibly see them tomorrow. As I say, I haven't formalised my team yet.
Pep, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing here, but he effectively said yesterday that he's not wasting a minute on the Carabao Cup. They've got too many injuries. What did you make of that comment? Is that trying to soften you up a little bit because he'll want to win just as much as you will, I would presume?
Well, I didn't see it, so you're telling me that comment, but I don't believe that for a second, because Pep's a manager that's won so much, and he hasn't won as much as he has without giving everything to every moment to try and achieve success. So I've no doubt that we'll see the best Manchester City tomorrow.
Thank you.
Martin.
Hi Eddie, just on English managers, I think it's 15 years since an English manager won a major trophy. He came very close last season. How important is it to end that run?
I'd love to end that run. I didn't realise it was that long. 15 years is a long time. I'm giving everything I can to try and bring silverware to this football club. That's my ultimate aim and ambition. So I'm going to give it everything I've got.
Are there any reasons you can think that it's been that long?
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to sort of try and overanalyse it. I don't know. I didn't know it was that long. There's been some outstanding English managers, so I'm surprised. But without going into too much detail, it's difficult to give you a reasoned answer.
Does it feel like you're carrying the beacon, if you like, at a major club to be the English manager?
I don't necessarily feel that. I think I just feel I'm doing the job to the best of my ability. I'm not trying to. I don't feel I'm flying the flag alone. For English managers, there's some very good ones, up and coming ones, I think, coming through, and no doubt that will be broken at some time. I hope I am the man to do it.
Sorry, just like one last one, go back to Anthony Gordon. You mentioned on Sunday that he's always the last off the training pitch. How important, how hungry is he to get better, and how important is that in his career?
Yeah, since he came here, he's been very, very driven. I can see that in lots of different areas. I think he knows there's areas of his game that he wants to improve. He wants to work on them. Those aspects. He's not someone that shies away from the work. I think he wants to do the work. Yeah, he's been great to work with. I said that very early, and I wasn't lying. He's a great lad, very, very, as I say, fiery, but in a good way for himself and for the team. And I'm really pleased with what I've seen so far.
Tom Short and Dom Skirt.
Eddie, the run to the final last year and everything that surrounded Wembley, not so much the local lads, but do you think it hit home to some of the other players, just the heroic states they'd have if they could win a trophy?
I don't know. I think they already know how passionate the supporters are, how loyal the supporters are, and how much they hold their heroes in high regard. So I think it's very obvious when you play for Newcastle for any period of time that the supporters will love you if you do well, and that, as I say, they're very loyal. So I think the group of players that we have here are fiercely determined to try and win a trophy for them. I think that's what drives it. I don't think they're necessarily attaching it to themselves. I think they want to give back, and that's what we all want to do.
And just on the back of the Anthony question, Stan Bird on 5 Live was saying last night that when new players come in, because of the way you ask them to play, kind of an acceptance inside the club that it's going to take time. With that in mind, and obviously with the example of Anthony this year, is there an acceptance that with Sandro, for example, it might be the second half of the season when you truly see the best?
Yeah, I think without talking specifically about Sandro, I think for any new player, especially someone that comes abroad, is more difficult. But young players, it's difficult because we've built the way we play now over the length of time that we've been here. Some players pick it up quicker than others, but for some it does take a little bit of time just to get to understand some of the things that we do and the relationships within the team and the patterns that we play with. But I just think that's natural, and sometimes from the outside that can seem quite difficult to comprehend, and they want new signings thrust into the team. I understand that, but I will always pick what I believe is the strongest team, and sometimes people maybe struggle to understand the concept. But then when I can see the penny starting to drop and the team, the players playing with the qualities that we need, and then hopefully they don't look back.
No. Elliot Anderson's been effective for you in a number of positions going back into pre-season. Obviously, he started the last 2 league games in a more central role. Just what do you feel is his best position in the side?
I think he's a versatile player. I don't think there's necessarily one position. He's played as a number 8 for us recently, and he's done very well in that position. I have to say it probably took him a bit of time to fully understand that role, because I think naturally he'd played wide left for a long time. We've moved him slightly inside, and I think it really suits his game. I have to say I thought he was excellent on Sunday, although he didn't score, which he'd probably be frustrated with. I thought he was behind a lot of our good football. I thought he's very competitive off the ball, very good defensively, but he's got a real creative eye and can see a pass. He's got very good body swerve, ability to beat people 1v1, so I'm really pleased with his progress and how he's adapting to life in the team.
One player did score on Sunday, Bruno Guimaraes. His celebration appeared to suggest he'd committed his future to the club. Is there any update on his contract situation?
No, I don't know what's happening with him.
George?
Hi Eddie. I know you don't know all the details yet, but it's obviously a big blow to you and indeed to Harvey if he's out for a period of time. How is he mentally?
Yeah, he was down after the game because I think he knew it wasn't your normal injury where you could, I don't know, you feel a muscle and you think that might be 1 or 2 weeks. This was a slightly more complex issue, and I think he probably feared the worst because there was no one around him. It was one of those mechanisms where he probably felt that it wasn't quite right. So no doubt he'd be disappointed because he was very keen to show his worth and his value, and it was a really good opportunity on Sunday to do that. But whatever the injury is, however long it takes for him to get back, we'll support him, and we know he's a top quality player, and he's still got a massive part to play.
And obviously it's a huge challenge for you in terms of tactics and team selection, 3 competitions in 3 games. There's a big physical demand on players. Is there also a psychological element for them going from San Siro to Bramall Lane back to St James's and those different competitions, different teams, and if so, how do you deal with that?
Well, there is. I think I said before the Sheffield United game, it's a very difficult thing to measure, but the psychological, emotional cost that a game gives a player, and that's where sometimes you've got to make decisions based on your gut feel rather than sort of solid information like physical stats you can get, but emotional and psychological ones you can't get a reading on that. You just have to go with your gut feel sometimes. So that's why I'll sometimes make changes based on that, either protecting the player or giving someone else an opportunity based on my feeling.
Kieran?
Eddie, you mentioned the 2-11s narrative, and I think it was there the last season. Do you feel now that you've got the ability, if you wanted, to name a completely different 11?
Yeah, I think we're building towards that, Lee. I think we've got some very, very good players. I think you saw that sort of through last week with the changes that we made. Some very good players coming in, some very good players then being rested. Now we haven't seen everybody yet this season, and there's still opportunities for some very good players to show their worth and their value. So I'm very pleased with the squad. I think injuries are the only thing that can imbalance us now, and we've had 2 injuries to midfielders, and now we've got 1 to Harvey, so our attacking sort of resources being stretched a bit, but that's always going to be the case.
And after the game, you enjoyed it with the players and the fans. Obviously, at Brighton, you absorbed a different feeling. How important is it to absorb that no matter what the scoreline is and go and share that moment, good or bad, with the supporters?
Yeah, it's 2 very different emotions for us, but 2 brilliant responses from the supporters, and I think the Brighton response from them was incredible, really. Singing, chanting, despite the fact they'd seen a poor display, and that's not lost on me or the players. I think we know that we have to stand up and take criticism when it's there, but I think what we have to do minimum is show respect to our supporters who travel big expense, a lot of time to come and watch us play. The minimum we can do is go and thank them for their efforts, and I always implore the players to do that, whatever the scoreline.
And finally, Callum Wilson went ahead of Les Ferdinand, which is no easy thing to do. Is there any limit on what he can achieve? I mean, he's just signed a new contract. It'd be nice to see him try and get close to Shearer.
Oof. He's got some way to go there, but I actually did see the graphic, so I saw the interview he did with Les after the game, which was quite interesting, because you see how far Alan is ahead of everyone else, and his record at the football club is remarkable, really. But Callum can just do what Callum can do, and that's keep scoring goals, keep contributing. Great to see him score again. I thought he played well. He's in a really good place. And yeah, he will know probably those stats. I think he is driven by not so much the records, but scoring goals is what he always wants to do. So fair play to him.
Kieran?
I think at the start of last season you had a chat with the players about the history, about making their own history, about maybe ending that long way. Have you had a similar sort of talk with them this time around?
Not currently, no. I think I am a big believer in those things can drive you, but I think at the moment, I think it's this is maybe the wrong game to sort of lead that way. But I think we're well aware of our hunt for a trophy here. It is pushing us all. Now this is a competition where we take very seriously. We would love that to be a trophy that we want to win. So we'll do everything we can to try and do it.